Good morning. Well, it's a lovely crisp morning here in the Malvern Hills. It's the 30th of October 2019, so just a day after I did my last walk in the Malverns. I'm actually staying in the area this time for a few nights, so I'm going to try and do as many walks as I can whilst I'm in the area and also whilst the weather's good. But I think today might be the last day of good weather. Look at that, isn't that just fantastic? I should be making my way up there fairly soon. Well, today's walk starts here on the edge of Malvern Common. Now, the reason I wanted to start here was because the very first time I came to the Malvern Hills, way over 30 years ago, I think it would have been towards the end of 1986, I stayed in a youth hostel. And it was just over there somewhere on Peachfield Road. Another one that's long since closed now, sadly. But I remember cycling here. I remember coming from my grandparents' house in Chepstow, cycling across the Forest of Dean, and then on from there I came to the Malvern Hills for one night. And I recall cycling over the A449 as it skirted sort of around the eastern side of the Malvern Hills. And that's the bit that just blew me away as I saw all this. It was lovely. So anyway, it's time to start my walk. I'm just about to make my way up there into the hills. Crossing Malvern Common, I climbed steadily towards the Wyche. The commons throughout Malvern are cared for by the charity Malvern Hills Trust, who also care for the hills. All land under the care of the Trust is open access for walkers. I soon reached Wells Road. And that's something else I always remember about the Malvern Hills, was those old style gas lamps. Obviously not gas powered now, but it's nice to see that they've preserved them, because I think they really add to the atmosphere of the landscape. I was wrong. These lamps are powered by gas, and I plan to explore them further in the near future. The Wyche is a suburb of the town of Malvern, situated approximately 1 mile south of Great Malvern. From Lower Wyche, I climbed up one of the country's steepest streets, Old Wyche Road, which rises at an angle of 17.54 degrees as it reaches Upper Wyche. The Wyche Inn is Worcestershire's highest pub, with fantastic views to the east overlooking the Severn Valley. The western boundary of the village is marked by the Wyche Cutting, a pass through the Malvern Hills, which links Worcestershire with Herefordshire. My walk continued at the east side of the cutting, from where I followed the level path southwards past Rock Cottage. I soon passed a tall vent pipe, which is that of an early water system, supplying a number of houses on the hills, using water pumped from the old Colwall tunnel, through which the railway ran beneath here to Hereford. I continued along the path, which was actually a route I was following from an app I had downloaded from a local tourism website called Visit the Malverns. And on that app you can download walks that they've got on there. And today's walk is one of those downloaded routes. It's brilliant because apart from having directions saying follow path gently downhill, ignoring any side paths, they've actually got images with arrows on there. So It really is almost like an idiot's guide to the walk, but it's so helpful, you can't go wrong. It's absolutely brilliant. Follow the gentle downhill path. Arrows pointing down. Great. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said an idiot's guide. That's probably a little bit demeaning, but it's a very simple to follow guide, shall we say. So there you go. Follow the arrows. The path soon split in 3 directions. I took the middle path straight ahead, marked by a stone direction sign, pointing the way to Holy Well. Right, I'm now at the Holy Well. The Holy Well is one of the most important surviving treasures of the Malvern Hills' rich water heritage. Records detailing the Holy Well go back to the 17th century, though the source is likely to have been important during medieval times, if not before. The present-day building dates from the 18th century, albeit much altered over the centuries. The waters have been used for healing and bottling throughout recorded history, and were used by Schweppes for their Malvern water after 1856. By 2015, the Holy Well waters were the only Malvern waters still being bottled. Although restored in the 1970s, the building underwent a major renovation programme in more recent years. Returning along the same path, I retraced my steps for a short distance and took the path that zigzagged sharply to the left just before a green bench. I carried on along a level path through the trees before emerging onto the open hillside. After a while, the path led around the head of an open valley. Where the path split, I took the left fork downhill towards Berington's Quarry. The quarry exposes Malvern's complex, estimated at 677 million years old, consisting of the igneous rock diorite cut by veins of pink-red pegmatite. Malvern's complex is the name given to the ancient rocks of the Malvern Hills, reflecting the fact they are a complex mix of rock types, which have been much altered through a complex geological history. From the quarry, the path bore left, passing the remains of the quarry winding gear, used to lower the rock down 300 feet to the Wells Road below. I continued along the path, and at the next junction, followed the uphill branch to the crest of the ridge, signposted Black Hill. Well, I've now reached the path that runs along the top of the main ridge. For now, I want to get myself a cup of tea. Although I've got some water in my rucksack, I really fancy a cup of tea, and I know just the place where I can find one. From the main ridgeline path, I took the path opposite, leading to the B4232 Jubilee Drive. I was soon back on the A449 by the Malvern Hills Hotel, opposite British Camp Car Park, which had been the start and end point for yesterday's walk on the Malverns. I was looking forward to my cup of tea, so I wandered along to the delightful roadside cafe, Sally's Place. After my cup of tea, and having stopped for lunch, I retraced my steps and walked back towards the ridgeline path, where it continues near Wynds Point. Well, I'm at Wynds Point, and I've just rejoined the ridge path. It's going to take me over those hills very shortly. Just trying to work out which is which. I think the first one is Black Hill. The second two, I think, are one hill, that's Pinnacle Hill. And then I've got Jubilee Hill and Perseverance Hill, which I don't think you can see from here. So anyway, looking forward to walking across the top of the Malvern Hills again. After admiring the view of Little Malvern Priory and Court, I headed northwards along the ridgeline, the first peak to climb today being Black Hill. The trail continued along the ridge, ascending Black Hill and continuing to the summit. It's funny because it was a part of this section of the ridge that I walked back in July 2014. But of course, in the middle of July, it was a scorching hot day, I remember it well. Today, I've got every single layer on, but it's still lovely. I continued down into the dip and up to the next summit, part of Pinnacle Hill. In the early 19th century, an iron-roofed shelter was built here by Lady Mary Harcourt, but in 1826 a number of people sheltering in it were killed when it was struck by lightning. I continued along the ridge, the path following the boundary between Herefordshire and Worcestershire. As I looked south, I now had one of the best views of the hills, along which I had already walked over the previous 3 visits this year to the Malverns. Continuing north down the ridge, the path crossed a ditch just before a conifer plantation. This ditch is the Red Earl's Dyke, completed in 1287 by Gilbert de Clare. I followed the path up and down Jubilee Hill. Well, that's Jubilee Hill. I've now got one more hill to do today. Perseverance Hill. Carrying on along the ridge, I followed the path to the summit of Perseverance Hill. At this point, I could clearly see the town of Malvern lying below. Well, that's Perseverance Hill. Just got to walk down here now, and I'm almost back at Wyche. You can just see it in the dip at the foot of Worcestershire beacon. It's been a lovely walk across the ridge today, I have to say. Perhaps the best day I've had so far in the Malverns. Beyond Perseverance Hill, the ridge path dropped down and turned left to reach the road on the Herefordshire side of the Malverns at Upper Colwall, which is on the west side of the Wyche Cutting. Upper Colwall is the location of the Wyche Innovation Centre that was the former Scott's Transformers building. This is also the home of the Malvern Hills Geo Centre, a visitor centre based entirely on iPads with an attached cafe. Also in Upper Colwall is the Wyche Free Church. I've just got to go back through Wyche Cutting and then drop down to Peachfield Road where I parked my car this morning. Moving on from Upper Colwall, I walked through the Wyche Cutting to cross back into Worcestershire. From the top of Old Wyche Road, I took the stepped path which dropped down steeply to the A449 Wells Road, near the Railway Inn. Here I turned right at Peachfield Road to walk back onto Malvern Common. So that's the fourth walk completed in the Malvern Hills this year. I've just got 2 more to do. Well, I'm back on the edge of Malvern Common now, just off Peachfield Road, where I parked my car, so where I started my walk this morning. But I'm actually standing in exactly the same place where I was when I ended my tour of the Malvern Hills back in July 2014. And I remember on that particular occasion standing here, getting very intense, talking about a personal family issue. I think looking back I was far too intense, and it deviated from the walk. But it's easy to say looking back now. That was only a whistle-stop tour back then, but that's partly why I've now, over sort of 6 different periods, will be visiting the Malvern Hills this year to explore the area more thoroughly and not talk about any family issues whatsoever, just get on with the walk.